Hello and welcome to episode 53 of The Weighing Room, sponsored by 10Bet, where it's just me and Frankie this week to chew through the fat and preview the racing from Haydock and Ascot on ITV, with Punchestown's Sunday meeting also offering up some decent contests. Frankie, last week obviously saw some cracking action from Cheltenham's November meeting. I think you were there for a few of the days. What were your highlights from it?
Yeah, it was a great weekend. I did all three actually. I can't remember the name of Nichols's horse, but that was very impressive.
Alan?
Yes, that's the one on the Friday. Joseph's on the Saturday. Banbridge annoyingly beat my selection. Made my selection look average, to be honest. So that's quite a nice horse. And then Sunday maybe slightly disappointed with a few non-runners, but it was a brilliant weekend. It always is a great weekend. That November meeting, I like it. So yeah, I had a good one, mate.
Yeah. We've got another big weekend of action. Obviously, like I mentioned, Haydock and Ascot do come to the front of our minds with obviously the first Grade One event of the season in Britain from Haydock with the Betfair Chase. And then, as I mentioned, we'll be having a look at two races on Sunday from Punchestown with the Morgiana hurdle. Mullins, we're recording Thursday afternoon. So we're going to be having a look from an anti-post angle. But Mullins, as we talk, has 6 of the 8. And we don't have a clue really what's turning up, but we can talk through it anyway and see what we like. But just before we get going, just want to bring your attention to 10Bet's superb offer they have running at the moment. New bettors get 50% off their first deposit, up to £50 when signing up. Terms and conditions do apply with this, so make sure you check it out before you get involved. But it is a great offer to get involved with ahead of the weekend with some really nice horses running. Right then, Frankie, we'll kick off this week's pod by looking at the 150 from Haydock. It's the Betfair Graduation Chase. Hitman is a strong favourite at the top of the market. We were mentioning off there that he also does have an entry at Ascot in a race we'll talk through as well. But currently 4-7 favourite here with Cobden on board. You'd like to think he's going to go here. He won the race with Braveman's Game last season. Is it as simple as Hitman goes and gets off the mark?
I think so. I think that's the question: is where does he run? And if you know that, then that's when you start placing your bets. If he goes here, as like you said, they came here with Brave Man's Game, seems to have been the target. There was just rumours of maybe Nichols switching to Ascot due to ground, but this is probably the more likely target. And, even off our ratings, 160 versus 150, 145s, you look at the horses he's come second to, Fakir Dudere, Funambul, Savola, Grenadine, Eldorado, Allen, like these are all top class horses, better than this field. And then even recently carrying top weight to come second just in the old Rome was a great bit of form as well. A GA Law in third that's gone on to win at Cheltenham. So the form's there. All the boxes are pretty much ticked, hence why he's 4-7. If he comes here, all things well, I think he wins. And to be honest, when you get these shorties, sometimes some will give you a bit of a scare. Hitman's very straightforward. He'll jump well. He's a straightforward horse, doesn't really have any quirks, so he should just go and get the job done, in my opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't put it any better. Everything you said is bang on, because the only thing with this horse is a work in progress horse, and Nichols absolutely loves this horse. And he's only 6 years of age, going to have a massive career still. I think they want to step it up in trip, which they are really here, aren't they? Going up 2 mile 5.5. I think the old Rome was a little tester in the water to see if he can go up, and I think he'll probably go up to 3 miles in the future. The running in the old Rome was brilliant first comeback off top weight. Absolutely no problem with that. Probably should have gone and win, and that's the only downfall to this horse. It's finished second so many times. But if you look at the horses he's finished second to, they're not bad, are they? So to set a marker in this race, I think 4-7, it'd be one to put in accumulators, isn't it? Because you look, Itchy Feet 5-1, pulled up last 2 races. Manila Drama faded away on debut, but not a bad horse. And Earn River at 6-1, they're not bad horses, but like you said, they're rated 144, 145, and 150. Where Itchy Feet probably hasn't run to 150 in a long time. So I think Hitman, it's very straightforward, isn't it? I think going towards this race, a bit of a confidence boost for the rest of the season. Just get him jumping his fences again and go and get him back winning. And I think Hitman will get the job done and hopefully be a nice and easy start for us. But it's never that simple, is it, Frankie? So Ascot's first event on ITV on Saturday is the prestigious 205 Grade 2 Chanel Farmer 1965 Chase over 2 mile 5. Like we just touched on then, Hitman, he's in the betting, but we do think he's going to go to Haydock. So we have another shorty at the top of the market here with Lom Press for Venetia Williams. Is it as simple again that, look, there's a few shorties this weekend. Does Long Press just come and win on seasonal debut?
Yeah, I think so. This was such a good horse to watch last year, wasn't it? Just got better and better, and just the way L'Impresse travels and jumps, it's one of those that really is good fun to just watch him go around. And yeah, like I genuinely would give Hitman a squeak if he was to come here, and I wouldn't be massively surprised of an upset. But if he doesn't, the three that are left are just not on the same level at all. L'Impresse first time out, slightly shorter trip, but they're just not near him at all. So if Hitman comes, I'd give Hitman a better chance than what he's priced up at, but that's probably because it's a matter of where does he go, and he'd shorten if he was confirmed to come here. But besides that, L'Impresse should just wipe the floor with these lot.
Yeah, I completely agree. The thing I'd say about L'Impresse's last run, obviously at Aintree, I just think it ultimately came down to tiredness. He'd run a lot of races throughout the season, put a lot of big efforts in, especially when winning at the Cheltenham Festival on the ground he did. A lot of people have said maybe he needs that really, really soft ground to beat his best, but I don't think he probably needs to beat his best in this scenario. And I probably don't think that's true. I think good to soft ground be absolutely no problem for him. I think he'll scoot round and win very easily. And I think it's another one you could even, if Hitman goes to Haydock, L'Impresse here, you could shove them in a double. And I think there's other shorties you could shove with them. And I know it's easy to tip these up, but when these horses are coming back, it does scare off a lot of the field. And if you actually look at the field against it in this one, like you say, if Hitman doesn't turn up, St. Calvados hasn't been the same horse, has it? Do Your Job was a really bad seasonal debut, and Cool Code is a Cheltenham specialist, really. So it's not the best field in the world. And at 4-7, you'd whack them in your multiples, wouldn't you? So L'Impresse as well for me. Far too good. And I think he has a real chance this season in the Gold Cup with his end game going to there, isn't it? So yeah, L'Impresse, and I'm just looking forward to seeing these horses back, because that's what national racing is all about. And when you, like we've talked about before on previous podcasts, that with the flat you only maybe see him for one season and they get to stud. With jump horses, you get to see him for 3, 4, 5 seasons, and that's what I love about him the most. So yeah, L'Impresse for both of us in that. We go back over to Haydock then. And what looks a really tricky event, actually, is the Betfair Exchange Stayers Handicap Hurdle over 3 miles and half a furlong. Frankie, talks through your selection in this one. This is quite a tough race, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, I've flagged up a number of these. Might I could be well handicapped, Complete Unknown, one of Nichols I like. Gentleman at Arms, a bit of a bigger price. So, you know, there's a few in here that as I was going through, I started to put a little tick next to and must have half a chance. It's very competitive, but one where you hopefully can find some value. To nail down 2, Complete Unknown for Nichols would be one of them. A good second to Marlon Mission, who has a bit of Albert Bartlett form and is now rated just over, I think, 141 over hurdles, and there probably should be improvement beyond a marker 135 for Complete Unknown. Having that last run at Perth in April, should, as long as it comes here fit, should come here a better horse, I think, than what we've seen of him so far. And then another bit of a bigger price, a massive price. Looking at it now, they must have heard that I'm tipping it up. It's just doubled in price. Gentleman at Arms, another, I think, is what handicap. Got a great bit of form at Entry behind Gelino Bello, another horse that's now rated over 140. That was over 3 miles. I loved the way that it finished its race that day. And then most recent run, okay, maybe slightly disappointing, but it was reappearing run over 2 mile 4. I think a bit fitter, coming back to 3 miles, should have a great chance based off of that previous form at Entry. So they'd be my 2 to nail down. Nichols is Complete Unknown and Gentleman at Arms for a big each way price.
Yeah, Complete Unknown 7-1, and like we said, Gentleman at Arms at 20-1, both decent prices. I did say this race is tricky, but I'd like to think that I've found the winner in this, because I really do like Mai Tai. I think this horse is really, really well handicapped, like you said. A horse, he bounced onto the scene when he landed a bumper in December 2020 at Warwick, and that was in really taking style, I thought, that day. Off the back of that, he went to Newbury, and if you remember, he finished 5th, and it was a listed bumper, and the form of that bumper was just what everyone was talking about. If you look at who was in that race, the winner was Good Risk at All. Obviously, turned out to be a really good horse and was well handicapped last season over hurdles. The second was I Like to Move It, that's just gone and won the Greatwood, that's performed well over hurdles. And then Gelino Bello was 3rd, who won a Grade 1 last season at Aintree and also has gone over fences this season and done well. Mai Tai was back in 5th that day. So you'd like to think off the back of that he was always going to have a good career. And he's a bit like Hitman in the sense he's always bumped into horses, but he holds a hell of a lot of ability, I think. He was sent hurdling last season, December at Sandown. He was backed into favouritism 6-4, only to be bumping into Constitution Hill, who absolutely battered him by 12 lengths, but who hasn't he beat? But he was second that day, ran a good race, no problem in defeat because we know how good Constitution Hill is. Form there is absolutely solid. He then went to Haydock and bumped into John Bon in the Grade 2 Supreme Trial. He finished third that day, but if you actually look how he stayed on in the finish, it was only about 4.5 lengths behind John Bon. Another cracking performance because we know how he's turned out. And then he rounded off the season, bumping in one of your favourite horses, Frankie. Bumped into Three Stripe Life at Aintree in another Grade 1.
Ran well in that.
Yeah, he ran really well. And this is the thing. He was stepped up slightly in trip that day. For his first try, really around 2 mile 4. He ran a cracking second. But if you look at the horses he's been up against, it's Constitution Hill, John Bon, and Three Stripe Life, all Grade 1 performers, all in Grade 1 and Grade 2 races. To then come back into a handicap for his seasonal debut of 142, going up to 3 miles. And what I love about this going up to 3 miles is he's a full brother to Statler. Statler's just gone and won the National Hunt Chase and probably will be going for the Grand National in future. So there's so much stamina in that pedigree. It's untrue. I just think 3 miles is going to bring him on. I really do like Mai Tai. I think there's so many different cases for this horse. Another thing is, obviously, we know with Haydock, and I'm in Manchester at the moment, it's absolutely pouring down. And it doesn't stop in Manchester anyway, but it was pouring down. It's supposed to pour down Friday and a bit on Saturday as well. We know how much the rain gets into the ground at Haydock. It's probably going to be, if it's not worse than soft, I'll be shocked. I think it's going to be heavy ground. I really do. And this horse has won on heavy ground. So he's got so many ticks in the right direction. And around 4-1, if that can drift to 9-2, I think that's an unbelievable price. Still think 4-1's a great price. And I just think he's absolutely solid, Mai Tai. So a real strong selection for me.
Yeah, like I said, I would agree. I think that race behind Three Stripe Life, he just didn't quite have the pace to kick with him, did he? But he stayed well. I think this over 3 miles here could be bang on for him.
Yeah, I agree, and I hope so, because I think he's got a big chance. Obviously, we have got to talk about Run for Oscar in that race. Obviously, he was an absolutely superb winner of the Cesarewitch. Charles Burns got it bang on, was so well handicapped that day. Back over hurdles for this, he could just turn out to be anything again, and you can never rule out Charles Burns, can you? Especially with Daniel King, a £5 claimer on. You've got to watch out for that, but Mai Tai for me in that one. Right then, we just mentioned him, but Constitution Hill's back in the next race, and we're going to go back over to Ascot for the Grade 2 Coral Hurdle. It's another shorty, like we mentioned, but it does see the return of the Supreme Novices Hurdle winner, Constitution Hill. Frankie, it's an obvious one. There's not much against him, is there? I know Bruno Pastor, a horse you like. Goshen, he's obviously a big name in the sport, but he's back. Constitution Hill, he just does the job, doesn't he?
He does, yeah, 100% does. Thank God that we had a bit of rain and he's going to run. I'm really looking forward to seeing him. For some reason, I'm almost more excited to see Constitution Hill now than I was at Cheltenham, because there's another element of unknown again, isn't there? And, you know, what's he going to be like this season? Is he going to live up to the hype? Can he put a repeat performance in? All of these sort of questions. So just in this small field, just to go and see him, I'm really excited for. I mean, from a betting angle, there's absolutely nothing really to flag up. Chuck him in an acca. That's about it. Maybe one bet I've played myself today. You can still get Honeysuckle at 4s for the Champion Hurdle as a bet to nothing. It's basically a money, but like a free bet, really, isn't it? With your money back, because the only horse really you could see beating Honey is Constitution Hill. To back that before this happens is what I've done, just in case shock horror Constitution Hill does something silly and we all start to have question marks and the market tightens up a bit. So whilst you can still get Honeysuckle at 4s, if there was any bet to take away from this, it would be to have an antipost each way on her for the Champion Hurdle, because she might win it, and if she doesn't, she's going to come in the top 3, so you get your money back.
Yeah, you banged on with that. Like, this is the thing. We'll talk obviously more throughout the season when it comes towards close towards Cheltenham. But the price of Honeysuckle at 4-1 is outrageous. Constitution Hill, I absolutely love that horse. The highest rated hurdler in the land. Honeysuckle with the £7, he's slightly above him, but Constitution Hill's done absolutely nothing wrong, but 11-8 and even shorter in the Cheltenham market for the Champion Hurdle. It's short, that, isn't it? So you're right, Honeysuckle at 4-1 is an absolute bet to nothing, never been beat. So if you probably do want to back her, you back her before that race, you bang on. But on this race, Constitution Hill, Hope gets the job done. He's up to 2 mile, 3.5. I don't think that's a problem. He always looked like he could stay a bit further. So that's absolutely no problem. The rain's come, good to soft ground. Absolutely perfect. I think he'll swing by and win by how many lengths he wants. Interesting to see him get second, though. Brewing up a storm. Obviously, unseated. I think he was your nap that day, wasn't he? And
yeah, frustratingly. Yeah, I think he'll win a good race. And yeah, I don't know what the markets would be like without Constitution here. They'd probably be short, but I'd say he follows him home.
Yeah, it's fascinating though, isn't it? Because Goshen, you never know what's going to happen with this horse. Like,
oh, I'm done.
you don't know, because Goshen could just go from the front and just turn on everything. But I look, I don't think there's any match for Constitution Hill, but it's fascinating in behind. Obviously, for pleasure, that's another one that likes to go off in front. That's 50-1. And Utrecht 6-1. You like to think not good enough in this, but yeah, it's fascinating to see. It's not a betting race for anyone really, unless you want to go against Constitution Hill. But fascinating to see him back, and hopefully he can turn out to be the horse we all think he is this season. But just looking forward to seeing him. Right then, the feature event of the afternoon on ITV is the first Grade One on the jump season on British soil with the Betfair Chase. 5 had turned up this season. I was reading through the odds. We did think there could have been 3 at one point when I was looking through at the start. So obviously we didn't know if Frodon was going to turn up. We have got Protector out, and obviously Bristol Demise in there, but A Plutard tops the market. The Gold Cup winner at 4-7. Another shorty to put in Ackers if you want to go with him. Protector at 11-4 was third in the Gold Cup, but was, I think, nearly 20 lengths behind A Plutard that day. Bristol Demise won this race 3 times, looking for a 4th one. Will love the heavy ground, but now 11 years of age, probably not the same horse. Eldorado Allen has got the fitness edge on Protector and A Plutard, but even though we've seen him stay at 3 miles, this might be slightly further. And obviously Frodon's 33-1, won the Badger Beers, back up another £6 to 164. At 33-1, it's going to be a tough task for another great staying chaser. Frankie, is it the favourites to lose again? Because he could just be a class above, couldn't he?
100%, yeah. I won't talk for too long because it's just straightforward. I think all of these ones that we've put up are pretty straightforward, and you could bang all 4 of them into an Acker. Aplutard's just a class above. Did the same last year, went from the festival, a second at the Gold Cup, coming in absolutely pissed up here by 20-odd lengths. Then went and won at the festival, and we'll come back here and should do the same again. Just a class above. And 4-7 is not actually the worst price in the world. Could be shorter, in my opinion. So yeah, Aplutard, all things well, goes and wins.
Yeah, I completely agree. The only thing I do worry about, if it gets really, really deep and tacky, does A Plutard go somewhere else and say, look, we don't want to give it such a tough assignment to start off. That's my only worry. I still think if it runs and on the ground, it'll still beat these, because I looked at last year's race and what he went on to win by 20-odd lengths, and that I think that race was arguably deeper than what this is. So 4-7 this year, surely, if you think that race was tougher and this is easier, you'd like seeing the 4-7s want to play like an accumulator. So yeah, we'll keep it simple. We don't need to talk about this too long, but it's a good looking race, because with Protector out in there, I think if you look at Bristol Demise, Eldorado, Allen, Frodon, you think, oh bloody hell, what price is this going to be? But Protector out has shown a little bit of form, has shown form on heavy ground as well at Aintree. So it's just nice to see these horses coming back and see how they perform. But A Plutard shouldn't be beat in that race. Right then, Ascot's last event on ITV at the weekend sees the Jim Barry Wines Hurst Park Class 2 Handicap Chase over 2 mile 1 furlong. And I think this is one of the most fascinating events of the day, Frankie, because we're seeing graded horses in handicaps, and we've seen some very potentially well handicapped horses. So it's a fascinating race. But who did you go with?
It is, and I mean, the two I can't decide between are the Grade One Edwardstone and the potentially well handicapped Time White for Paul Nicholls. And it's what angle do you want to play? If you kind of look back at the last few weeks, I'd be swayed with going with Edwardstone, especially given it's 2 miles and it's good to soft ground at the moment. You know, if it's 3 miles and heavy, then and you're giving away £10 or whatever it is, then I think you start to question that more, and it's a tougher and tougher ask. But 2 miles on good to soft, I do think Edwardstone should hold these lot. So Edwardstone's my selection. The danger is, as I said, Time White finished his last race really, really well. Looked very impressive actually at Ascot, beating decent handicappers. It's just a question, you know, he's a top handicapper and Edwardstone's a top graded horse, and they're going to meet with I think £10 difference in the weights or £12 difference in the weights. How do you play it? My angle is it's 2 miles. The ground's decent enough that Edwardstone should be able to jump and just hold these lot, but it's not straightforward. Hence, probably the best price you'll see on Edwardstone for a while.
Yeah, you bang on. And I'm with you again here. I think Edwardstone, I do love when graded horses go into a handicap. Like I think we put a big case forward for Odin on the Badger Beers. Top weight, no problem, because he can just go. These horses, when they go against handicappers, like Edwardstone, they're used to running against other Grade One competitors, so they can go very quickly, jump over their fences slicker, and they can travel for longer. At that speed, whereas handicappers can go for a while, but when it comes push to shove, like they can't keep going, and that's the thing that I think will happen. Edwardstone was obviously set to run in the Schlur Chase before being bought out because of the ground. He's obviously fresh, ready to go. We've known as well with Alan King over both codes. He's got no problem shoving his better horses in handicaps. Look at Trushan in the Northumberland Plate. So Real's done it as well in lesser races. So Edwardstone's I've got no problem. 161, yes, it's high. 12 stone, yes, it's high, but I just think it's the best horse in the race. And if fire on all cylinders, 11-4, 3-1's an absolutely cracking price for a horse that won the Arkle last season. Yes, going into open companies, another maybe slight negative, because we've seen before, we don't know how horses coming out of novice company are going to be against the older horses, but fascinating to see him put in this handicap. And obviously, I think you're at Ascot as well, so it'd be great to see Edwardstone in this. But like you put Time White up as like a bit of a danger. My danger is the Irish Raider, right? The one at the bottom of the weights, completely different end of the spectrum, but so Scottish for Emmett Mullins. We obviously saw last week with 1,000 Tears, the gamble go completely wrong. 4-1 anti-post favourite, out to 18-1, pulled up after 2 hurdles. I think a lot of people weren't very happy with that. This horse, So Scottish, around the 6-1 mark, definitely played each way against Edwardstone. But fascinating for me off a marker 135, knowing what Emmett Mullins can do with these Irish Raiders coming over to England. Struggled over hurdles, So Scottish, probably not a massive name that people would have heard of, but what he's done over fences this season really makes you think that he could be quite a potentially nice horse. We're seeing in October for the first time at Tipperary when getting off the mark over 2 mile, 3.5 furlongs that day. And he saw off the talented Railwell Hurricane. And obviously we saw that horse last week going against Unanswered Prayers and only lost by 3/4 of length of that Cheltenham Hell. And he was giving weight away to Unanswered Prayers that day. That's no problem with that. Frank the Form. So Scottish beat Railwell Hurricane by 7 lengths that day. And then when Frank the Form himself at Carlisle at the end of October, taking a novice chase under a penalty, makes his handicap debut today at 135. Edwardstone's has got to give him what, £24? It's a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight. And I know So Scottish might not be anywhere near that horse, and he might have to be a grade 3, grade 2 type of horse to go and win this race. But because he's so unknown at 6-1 and just knowing what this trainer can do, he's a very, very interesting player, I think, So Scottish. And if you look at the way he's jumped his fences since changing from hurdles to fences, he looks like an out-and-out chaser. So I'm happy to play him as an each-way marker as well in this. But he's a really good race. I'm looking forward to it massively. You just love seeing graded horses in a handicap. The final event on Saturday from Haydock is another tricky one. It's the Betfair Exchange Class 2 Handicap Chase over, I think it's 3.5 furlong. Frankie, who did you like in this one? It's got another tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Kind of looking at two who are both the same price in the market as I look at it now. Lord Demensil, rated 146, which has been steadily kind of sliding for a while. He's getting older and he's not at his best, but 2 runs over in France, didn't do a whole lot, and then came back to Bangor with a decent second that I thought was slightly off the pace and ended up staying on well into second on heavy ground over 3 miles. He didn't look like he'd lost his love for racing at all, if you watch that. And I think just off of the mark and what he can do when he's at his best, you've got to give him a chance. And he goes well on soft and heavy ground, which we're going to see especially by that last race on Saturday at Haydock. So I think he's got a great chance, and he should be thereabouts. I mean, I can see 11-2 in front of me. You could play an each way bet, and I'd imagine he'd be in the mixer. Truckers Lodge, the other next door in the market, with Freddie on board taking £10 off. That's got to be attractive. Marker 145 with Freddie on taking that 10 off. I think just looking at that off of the weights and what he's done, and again, another that will stay, that will go on soft ground, that should be in the mixer. And on his form, it usually comes best around 3 miles. I've tried him over 4 and 3.5 and all sorts. He's a bit of a plodder. Well, he's a trucker, like he's called. But just at the weights and with the claimer on, I think that's probably some nice placing by Paul. And again, one that I could see those two definitely, in the top 4, with a chance of going and winning this.
Yeah, I completely agree. Lord de Mesnil, obviously a course and distance winner, normally runs well around Haydock and doesn't mind the ground at all. Will just plod on all day. But my selection is Trucker's Lodge. You just put a good case up for him, and exactly what I was thinking. Really, very admirable staying chaser for this yard, and obviously we know how in form Paul Nicholls in any races in at the moment. You can't look. You've got to, when you read his name, you've got to look through the horse, regardless if he has PPPF next to it. You've just got to have a look because he's in absolutely fine form. He loves soft, heavy ground. This horse, and these are the type of races where he wants to go and win. He was third off a marker 150 in the 20 runner Welsh Grand National in December. Only 4 horses got home that day. That's how bad the ground was. The ground could be absolutely attritional at Haydock on Saturday, so he's got no problem running in that. He went to Ascot in February and was a good third behind Fortescue, who was well handicapped that day, and Fiddler on the Roof as well, who obviously finished second in the Hennessy. That was in a listed Swinley chase. He was stepped back up in trip to 4 mile 2 in the Midlands Grand National. Another really valiant race off 149 to finish 6th of 18, again on soft ground. What I like about is, like you said, he's been dropped £4 for that run. Off a marker 145 here, back to testing ground, back to a trip he knows better. And the £10 off Freddie Gringle, oh, that is absolutely superb, because he runs basically, if you're thinking Freddie Gringle's £10 worth every single pound, he's essentially racing off 135 here, which is very light for this horse, over getting all his conditions. So at 8 to 1, I'm looking at now, I think it's a superb bet. Trucker's Lodge, and it'd be nice to see him get back. He's what, 5th, 3rd, 6th. They've been great runs, but it'd be nice to see him get back winning and go really close in this one. So Trucker's Lodge for me in the last on Saturday. Like we said at the top of the show, then we're gonna have a look at Sunday's racing at Punchestown. There's 2 races that are nice to have a look at, with Grade 1 and Grade 2 action on the card. And the first one we're gonna look at, Frankie, is the Florida Pearl Novice Chase. It's a Grade 2 over 2 miles, 6.5 furlongs. Like we say every week, we're looking from an anti-post angle to recording before all the decks are out. So we're having an educated guess. I'm just going to have a little talk through the field who we like. But who would you say is your selection at this point in the market?
Yeah, I'm looking at, again, a couple. Like I said, I don't really know who's gonna run. Frontal Assault is probably the one I like the most. Just, he's not the prettiest over his fences, but he's just a bit of a brute. He travels so well. He does the job over fences, and he just motors along. I really like the way he finished his race at Galway on his reappearance run. I think he's got to be there or thereabouts. Manila Crooner, obviously a good staying hurdler last year. It'd be interesting. The Devil's Coachman, another good staying hurdler. It'd be interesting if either of those turn up. Am I Right is another I kind of flagged up. You watched that last run, and they kicked so far clear of third. Am I Right in Secret State? Secret State's gone on to win a race since. The only question is that race at Fairyhouse and the one that Secret State went on to win are lesser races than this. So it will have to step up into better company here. But the way they finished that race and the fact that second has gone on to win again suggests there is more to come. But I think for me, Frontal Assault would probably be the one I like the most. Like I said, he just travels and travels, and he's a bit of a brute and seems to have a serious engine on him. So should just keep motoring along.
Yeah, it was gambled on last year, wasn't it? Frontal Assault for I think it was the Kim Muir at the Cheltenham Festival.
Yeah.
The name off. Unlike one of Gordon Elliott's, really in the handicaps. But yeah, it's a fascinating field if they all turn up. But the one that drew my attention is one you haven't mentioned, actually. It's Idas Boy for Gigginstown as well, for Noel Mead. He's maybe not as good as a hurdler as some of these horses in the market. But what he's done over fences so far makes me believe that he's massively improving for that step up over fences. And I think he's got every right to be in a race like this. He made his seasonal debut at Cork in October when bolting up in a beginner's chase over 2 mile 4. He beat Goa Delarge that day. It was a nice hurdler that's gone chasing this season. He was then last seen in the Grade 3 novice chase over the same course and distance. And he was only half a length second to El Barra. El Barra, we know, is a very, very good horse, ran behind the likes of Hewitt, Durasso. Bustle turn, ran some cracking races. Off a mark of 154, that horse is probably gone up for that run actually next time it runs, if he does go in a handicap. Only half a length behind that horse off level weights. You've got to say Idus Boy is going to be off quite a higher mark. That's why he has to run in these grade twos. I just thought if he went for this race, looks one of the more likely types to go close. And I think the step up in trip's absolutely no problem for him. So he's the one that took the eye for me in that one. Right, then the final race we're going to cover, Frankie, it's the Grade One Morgiana Hurdle. An absolutely cracker every season. Hasn't seen the biggest amount of entries every season, but as we look now, it's currently eight in the betting, and 6 of them are Willie Mullins. You've got Saldia, Sharjah, Sir Gerhard, Stateman, Vauban, Echoes in Rain, and then Gordon Elliott's Tia Hoopu and Jesse Evans for Noel Mead. We don't know who's going to turn up here. We can have a good guess. The thing is, what I look at is you've got Sir Gerhard, Stateman, who the rumming and ahhing whether they're going to go over fences, whether they're going to keep over hurdles. He could just run the lot and then find out from there, couldn't he?
Yeah, he definitely could. I mean, if there was a market for Willie Mullins winning this, it'd be short enough, wouldn't it? I'd suggest the winner does come from him. If I'm completely honest, when I flicked to this earlier, I somehow missed Vauban. I think Stateman and Vauban are the two that I'm looking at and looking forward to seeing how, if they do race against each other, that turns out. I mean, it was exactly the same for both of them, really, in the last race. The way that Paul Townend rode Stateman just about a length off the pace with 3 Stripe Life, Flame Bearer and Kilcrew in front of him with so much confidence and then just breezed up the side. I mean, the way that Stateman beat 3 Stripe Life was probably more impressive than the way that Sir Gerhard beat 3 Stripe Life at Cheltenham. If you watch those races back, they're pretty similar. And just the level of confidence that Paul showed on Stateman suggests that they know they've got a decent horse out. And then it was exactly the same with Vauban. The way that he brushed aside Phil Dorr was just ridiculous as well. They are both 2 top 2 mile thereabouts hurdlers, and as you said, it depends what they end up doing with them this season. I did, as I said, I sent over Stateman as a selection, but I'd probably, with Vauban in there, over 2 miles would probably be the key, just as the speed horse would probably be the selection. But there won't be much between them, I don't think. And, you know, if it was over 2 mile 3 like Stateman raced over last time, that might be my pick. But that speed of Vauban, if they're going up to the last together and he can just push that button and kick, it might be the difference. But it's going to be a really good race. I hope they do. I hope those two do turn up. They're probably the two I'm most looking forward to seeing. I imagine you're in the same opinion that Sir Gerhard probably is the more likely one to go chasing. Stateman and Vauban look like proper hurdlers to me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Sir Gerhard, I love that horse last season. There's a lot of hype around that, obviously, the horse, but didn't actually jump his hurdles too great. And he's probably the one more likely to go over fences. And I'm looking forward to seeing he's over fencing. I could see him going in like a Turner's novices chase at the festival, something like that, going a bit further up in trip, like he did for the Ballymore, and go down that route. Stateman, how fascinating is Willie Mullins, because he's running Stateman. What the mark in the county hurdle? Off a mark of, let me just have a look, off a mark of 141. How much this horse had in hand was absolutely unbelievable, wasn't it? Because
ridiculous.
To go on to Punchestown and basically bolt up in a Grade One against Flame Bearer, who looks a really nice horse. Obviously, 3 Stripe Life, where we know how good that horse is and already won over fences this season. So that is just a very, very nice horse. And obviously won at the Punchestown Festival. But then you've got Vauban. Vauban, for me, he's got a cracking chance in the Champion Earl this season against Honeysuckle and Constitution Hill, if turning out to progress again. What I saw at the Dublin Racing Festival from Vauban, going on from there into Cheltenham Festival and the Punchestown Festival, he has got that much speed. It's unbelievable. And like you said, when it comes to a race like this, turning that corner, we've seen before, Sharjah, who's in this race again, and the likes of Saldi, but they turn that corner and they're just motionless. And you like Paul Townend probably give a flip behind the ears and he just flies, absolutely flies. So Vauban would be my go in this one. I think it's a perfect opportunity to see whether, look, because he's 4-year-old, there's plenty still to come, but at 4, they're still very young. Whereas Stateman 5 and Tia Hoopu 5 and Sir Gerhard 7 and even Sharjah 9 and Saldier 8, they're a bit more experienced, aren't they? Vauban was running in juveniles last season. He's coming into open coming out the back of that. We've seen before where he doesn't work out. I hope it does. This horse looks absolutely brilliant and he's absolutely rapid. But it's a great race. Just hope they all turn up. Or if they don't all turn up, we get to see a good enough race where we're finding out a lot more about these horses. But yeah, if you had to put me down to one, I'd go for Vauban, but it's a fascinating contest. Right then, Frankie, that's all of Saturday's and Sunday's events covered for this week. So it's nap time. Paul landed a winner last week with Banbridge. We're still yet to get off the mark since we've started the jump season. Well, I had an each way winner, but we want to get a winner this week. Frankie, who do you like this week?
We can't put up any of Applitard, Conhill, Hitman, any of those. They were far too short. You could nap an accumulator. That wouldn't be the worst shout, would it? Wonder what that would pay. But to look outside of those, I think I'm probably going to have to stick with Edwardstone because I think that's a great price. Like I said, I don't think you'll see that price often for a horse of that caliber. And he has got his work cut out. It's not straightforward. 2 miles, you look at, we've seen Grenadine go and win, carrying a load of weight, Frodon go and win, carrying a load of weight. Even I like to move it, carrying a load of weight. And especially just 2 miles, slicker jumping, quicker pace, quicker travelling pace. Should hopefully get these handicappers off the bridle before he is and just go and win and jump them into the ground ready. So Edwardstone will be the nap, 11-4, could be healthy.
Yep, I think it's got a cracking shout. I'm going to go for Mai Tai. I gave him a massive shout, didn't I? Bumping into Constitution Hill, John Bond, 3-stripe life last season in graded company, drops into handicap company off 142, goes up in trip, full brother to Statlow won the National Hunt Chase, 4-1. He's a great bet for me. He's got so much going for him. So yeah, Mai Tai for me. Frankie, thanks as always. That's it for this show this week. Great weekend of action at Haydock, Ascot and Punchestown on Sunday. I think you'll be at Ascot, won't you, Friday and Saturday this week? Am I right?
Yeah, Friday and Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, so you'll see some obviously top action. You'll get to see Constitution Hill and Edwardstone hopefully go and win. Be sure to like this video, subscribe as well, and get your comments in below with your naps or selections for the weekend and see how they go against ours. All the best, whatever you're backing this weekend. And Frankie, thanks again, and I hope you have a good weekend.
Top stuff. Cheers, James.